Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Friday, the 19th of October, 2012. I'm Jim Ninsel, host of Political Roundtable, our weekly analysis and commentary on local, state, and national politics. Tonight on the Roundtable, we'll have a special focus on the propositions that voters are facing on the November ballot. Joining me this evening is Pima County Democratic Party Chairman Jeff Rogers, Republican strategist Sam Stone, and Tucson City Councilman Steve Kozachik. Thanks to all of you for being here. Let's start with Proposition 121, the so-called open primary proposition. This one would scrap our current system where we elect candidates in a partisan primary, a Democrat, a Republican, a Green, a Libertarian, and then they face off in a general election in November. Instead, everybody would run in a single primary, and out of that would emerge two winners that would face off in the November general election. The proponents of this say that this would help moderate it. It would get more independents involved in coming out to vote. It would change the choices that voters face, and it would change the people who emerge from these primaries. Jeff, we've talked about this a number of times on the show, and you're not buying those arguments.
No, we haven't seen any evidence in the three states that have something similar to that that it does any of that. As far as what they promise, more moderate politicians and higher independent voter turnout, hadn't worked. Louisiana has a version of this that's slightly different, and they've had right-wing Republican rule in the decade or so they've had it. Washington's had it this is the second cycle, and California now has it for the very first cycle. No evidence of either one of them of increasing independent turnout. Now, you got to realize, in Arizona, and all states are not like this, independents can vote in either the Democrat or the Republican primary or the Green primary. They can't vote in the Libertarian primary because the Libertarians have decided, and it is their right to choose, that they don't want it to be open. So, we saw about the same independent turnout in California this last election cycle as before. And there are two other problems with it. It's fraught with mischief. There's practically an invitation to put sham candidates on the ballot so that you can increase the number. And I'll give you two good examples. The first example is from the 31st Congressional District in California, a somewhat Hispanic tilting, close but Democrat-leaning district. You had 4 Democrats run in the primary, and you had 2 Republicans. Well, the top 2 were the top 2 Republicans, even though together they didn't even get 50% of the vote. Now, the opposite side would have been CD9, Congressional District 9, the new district up in Phoenix. We had 3 Democrats running in the primary, and I think the Republicans had 7. And when we look at the vote totals, we can see right now that we would have had 2 Democrats in the general election. Everyone else would have been squeezed out. In addition to that, it virtually eliminates any chance of Libertarians or Greens to get on the ballot and have any effect on the elections whatsoever. And finally, as I said, it adds, we've seen sham candidates run in clean elections in Phoenix. They've a few times run a Republican as a Green in order to get clean elections funding, in order to siphon off a few votes from a Democrat to try to change the ultimate election here. And that's in a system right now that's not really built to reward that. That top 2, or jungle primaries we call it, it is absolutely a system that will reward that. And you will see, people like Nathan Sproul and some of those other people who are willing to do this kind of work, that they'll put up candidates that will affect the race and affect the choices of the voters. So I'm not for it. I would like to see it go down to defeat. The Republican Party is against it as well. I've said often that what we really ought to do is let it play out a few cycles in California. Let them be the guinea pigs, because we've seen a lot of unforeseen consequences. It's like gravity. It's a rule of life, and let's let it play out there first.
And I think you still can identify yourself with a political party if your name is on the primary ballot. So that
and you can make
the
up
partisan,
the party of Jeff. You can make up your own party.
And this has actually got some. The parties aren't supporting it, but you do have support from the Chamber of Commerce here locally, the Southern Arizona Leadership Council. We should point that out. But Sam, your thoughts on this?
My thoughts echo Jeff's a lot on this. This is a really bad idea for a whole host of reasons, including the ones he mentioned. And we already have problems, as he said, with sham candidates running as Libertarians or Greens. We have one in the 2 congressional districts in Grijalva's district, Blanca Guerra, and in Peyton, the Kirkpatrick race with Kim Allen, who is as liberal as it gets and claiming to be a libertarian. We're going to see so much more of that kind of stuff if this passes. It's going to be absurd. You're going to have lots of not ballot tampering, but just ballot weighting from one side or another. And then there's the effect that it has on the number of people, and especially independents and the minority party voter, who come out in the general election. Because if you end up with 2 Republicans or 2 Democrats at the top of a ticket in a congressional year where that's the number one race, you know, the other party doesn't have any interest to come out. So what happens down the ballot that need people to come out and make those decisions for themselves? It's not going to happen. People are going to stay home. This is going to hurt turnout instead of help it. This is one of those things that sounds good in theory, and there's a bunch of people that have jumped on, and my view is they've jumped on for 2 reasons. They like the idea, but they don't understand the outcomes. Or 2, they look at it and say, this gives us a better opportunity to sway the outcome.
Steve, your thoughts?
Well, let's make an echo chamber out of it then. I agree. This is going to disenfranchise the minority parties summarily. The opportunity for mischief in the primaries, that I can vote for an unelectable candidate in another party just to get them onto the general ballot is clearly an opportunity that people may or may not take advantage of, the sham candidates that we're talking about. What we're also seeing, though, in the California example is, as Jeff and Sam were both describing, is if you have, just by way of example, you have, you mentioned Republicans, 7 Republicans on one side and 2 Democrats on another. The 7 Republicans are going to split the ballot, and the 2 Democrats will then emerge to the general election. You're now seeing party leaders in California discouraging some of their candidates for getting involved in the election. To me, that's just bad policy. It quashes the discussion. It constrains the number of people who are engaged in the debate going into this thing. And so I absolutely agree with these guys that it's a good idea in theory, maybe, but in practice it hasn't turned out to be quite the panacea that people think it's going to be.
And that's a very good point that Steve brings up. But let me add one more, is that it's a little bit like nonpartisan elections, which are mostly you see in local governments, but everywhere in America that's adopted nonpartisan elections, turnout has plummeted, and I mean plummeted. It is really, really low to really, really low. Because the political parties, while not perfect and not always great in their definition of who they are, they do stand for something. And people have something, they go, okay, he's a Democrat. Now, is he a Democrat I like or don't like, and maybe I like the Republican better. But they give you something to hang your hat on.
I've had this discussion when I teach a class at the university, and it's about rational ignorance. And the problem is a lot of voters out there just simply don't have the time to study every single candidate and every single race, and that's why they gravitate towards political parties, because that's a brand that aligns with their values, and so they don't have to know every single thing about every single candidate. They can identify
and that's a good point. But let me comment on it, because that's a challenge for a guy like me who's got his R next to a name in a state like Arizona. People may assume that, all right, so Kozachik likes the birther bill, and he likes 1070, and he likes all the, he wants to videotape fetuses, in utero. Nothing could be further from the truth, and yet I've got that label. So people need to do their homework on the candidates. They need to study what the positions are, what their voting record is. Go out, attend forums, attend candidate debates, read the material, watch the stuff on TV, and read the paper. Educate yourself as a voter, and then we don't need this kind of manufactured way to get to expand the base of candidates.
Increased voter turnout, especially in primaries, is a fantastic goal, and we need to get people more involved, because that's how you do get more centrist candidates. Is by getting those people who don't always vote to the polls, but this is not the way to do it.
Participate in the process up front.
And that's something I wanted to ask you about. I mean, obviously, the concerns of the people behind this is that the system currently is, if not broken, then at least producing extremist candidates on one side or the other as a result of few people turning out to vote in these things. And do they have a point there? And is there another solution besides this that would help?
Then engage the process and put candidates up that you want in the primary and support them. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't allow 2 fringe candidates, irrespective of party, to carry the day in the primaries. If that is your position, not yours, but yours generally, and you don't feel centrist candidates are getting enough of a voice in the process, then put them up, support them, make phone calls, support them financially, but get them on the ballot yourself. Don't try and change the whole process.
Okay. And I think that we're going to see moderation this time, despite all of this, and the legislature is going to change vastly, and that's because 10 years ago, the Democrats weren't ready for that redistricting commission, and those horrible districts, we saw every year it got worse and worse and worse until 2010. It was the worst of the worst. But that was, you can take that and take it all the way back to the original redistricting 10 years before that. The new districts drawn are much more competitive, and you're already seeing some of the more extreme candidates get knocked off in primaries. So, we're going to see a much better legislature. I'm very optimistic this year. Republicans and Democrats, we're going to see something quite a bit different than what we've seen in the last 8 years.
It sounds like a cliche, but our system requires civic input from our citizens, and if you're not willing to get out there and go to the polls, that's a pretty easy thing to do. To send your ballot in by the mail, that's really easy. If you can't get out there and spend the time to learn and research your candidates and maybe get behind someone you believe in, I'm sorry, that has to fall on the individual who's not doing their job as a citizen. And that sounds cold, but if people want to change the system, get involved.
All right. The other citizens initiative, the proposition put on the ballot by the voters themselves, is Prop 204, and that is would continue the sales tax, the 1-cent sales tax, and it would dedicate 80% of it towards education, 10% of it towards social services, with the idea of pulling down federal matching funds, and another 10% towards infrastructure and highway projects. Sam, your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts on this one, there are a lot of Democrats here locally who opposed, I believe it was Prop 200, Public Safety First, back in 2009 here in Tucson, on the grounds, legitimately, that it would hamstring the city government by putting too many constraints, too many budgetary constraints on them. And this does that also at a much broader level for the state. So, if we want to get education funding, there are better ways to do it than this, because this is really a bill that, maybe the intention is very solid, but the bill itself got written by a lot of lobbyists and a lot of special interests who are looking for specific guaranteed handouts for their interests. Obviously we have work to do on our schools here. This is not the way. Voters need to push this aside, say absolutely not, and then get on your state legislators and say this is what we need.
Well, theoretically, I kind of agree there on a theoretical level. I mean, I don't want to tie Steve's hands at the city council with things that tell him how he must divvy up the budget, and I wouldn't theoretically want to do that to the legislature. But this is born of years of desperate frustration of watching this legislature and the previous one before that gut public education.
But you say you're confident we're going to swing the legislature.
I think we are. I'm confident we'll swing. I don't know if we can get to a majority in either house though by until 2014. So in theory, I think it's great. But on the other hand, these people will not fund education unless we force them to do it and tie their hands. And I can't think of any more worthy thing to force upon them to tie their hands. And there are all kinds of parts of this. As he indicated, there's 20% of this is going to go to building our infrastructure, which is admittedly in great need of building. And so, there are construction interests that are, going to help push this through. But, this is going to be good for our kids, it's going to be good for our teachers, and it's going to be a guaranteed source and there are a lot of standards in there that teachers will have to measure up to. Some of the teachers' unions are not real pleased with this because it does have measurement devices and ways to hold people accountable and make sure there's transparency in how the funds are spent. So we're for it. The Democratic Party endorsed it unanimously, both here at the local level and the state level. So I think it's probably going to pass.
All right, so we got a no, a yes, and Steve?
Well, in general, I don't like ballot box budgeting, but when your elected officials are not producing in terms of the core services, we have, for instance, Al Melvin, who says he wants to fund education by turning Saddlebrook into a nuclear waste repository. They're not getting the job done up there. As Jeff said, we have gutted public education funding in this state. The University of Arizona, the Tri-State University, has lost hundreds of millions of dollars in the last few years. So as a general statement, I don't like the ballot box budgeting system, but when your elected officials aren't addressing the core services, it is incumbent on the electorate to say, this is what you're going to do, and this is why you're going to do it. It is one of your core functions. That's what's going on here. Now, I think that they made a strategic mistake in watering down the ballot with adding some of the infrastructure and adding some of the family services. They are both legitimate needs, but I'm not sure that they would fall into the kind of the education funding chic that Andy Peterson is running this thing on. It will be a tough sell. It is, if nothing else, whether it passes or fails, it is certainly sending a message to the legislature that this is what we expect you to do in this state, and you haven't been doing it.
Well, I'll make 2 points. One, considering the Republican registration advantage in Saddlebrook, I think you would probably like to replace them with a radioactive garbage dump. And secondly, Steve hit on the problems that this bill has with all the things that have been added to it. This looks a lot like the bills that we see coming out of the U.S. Congress, where someone puts up a bill to benefit veterans, and 90 other congresspeople throw their pork on it right away. Because they're saying, well, no one will vote against veterans. This is what we've had with this bill here is, we had an idea, let's go out and fund education a little further. Let's add some more funds to that. And then everyone said, well, that's going to pass, so let's go throw our stuff on there too. It's bad policy.
Let me ask you this, though. Is it? I've also heard the opposite side. The polling shows that voters want to know that whatever they're voting for will be going to a very specific thing and not just be a blank check for lawmakers to spend.
Yeah, I think people do want control, but at the same time, I think most people understand that when something like this gets torn into little pieces by all the special interests around it, that what you come up with is bad lawmaking that hamstrings the state government from making the decisions that they need to make. We don't know where the economy is going to be in 5 years. It may be way up. It may be way down. We don't know. And so you have to leave some flexibility for the state lawmakers who we're electing to go there and make those decisions because they're going to have the information on the ground. We don't want to get in the position where we can't mortgage the State House again because we've already done it.
But what won't change in 5 years is the fact that education, public education, is one of the core obligations of the state legislature. That won't change. So we have got to make sure that they understand and that 80% or more of this bill is earmarked for public education. The other 20%, some of that is for infrastructure, some of that is for family services, some of that is for general fund for debt service. But the vast majority of this bill is going right into public education, which will not change in 5, 10, 20 years in terms of the obligation of the state legislature, which they have been abdicating for years in this state.
And to address what Sam said, so what if the economy is different in 5 years? What we've done with this law is we've said, we don't care what the economy's like. We want education funded to this level and no less than this level, and it must increase by this certain amount. And if you have to cut private prisons, which are more costly than state-run prisons, and if you have to cut any other thing, we want you to leave education alone.
Okay, so you're willing to see cuts in a number of other areas.
In a number of other areas. That's what this sends a big message to the legislature. This is our priority because this is our future.
All right, we're, as usual, running out of time. Speaking of tax hikes, there's also a road bond package for the city of Tucson, Steve, that would basically $100 million in bonds, and I think the average, or not the average, but $100,000 home would pay about $18 a year to pay these back. And
about $18. It's $3 per month per $100 assessed valuation. This is going to be another tough sell. As they say, Mr. Speaker, let me explain my vote. I voted to put this on the ballot. First of all, I'm going to support it. I voted to put it on the ballot. It will cost about $350,000 to take it to put it on the ballot. In the intervening time between that first vote, where I voted to put it on the ballot, and the time we were to vote to fund it, we had Rio Nuevo issues, we had streetcar issues, we had transit employees stealing, we had transit employees watching porn, we had issues at the golf department, all these front page stories. And I said, when we got to the funding part, you know what, much as I'd like to see this pass, much as I think it's important for the local infrastructure, I'm not going to roll $350,000 worth of dice on this thing. I would love to see the U of A beat USC in football. I'm not betting $350,000 on it.
And Stanford game was very close.
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't have bet $350,000 on that either, by the way. So when it came to voting to fund it, I said, no, too much has happened. And you know what happens in a job like this is that all of us in our private lives, when conditions change on the ground, we reserve the right to change our opinion. We do it every day. a guy like me who says, yeah, on one day, and then 30 days later when things have changed, I say, nah, you know what, I've got second thoughts about it. And so I voted no in funding it. I'm going to vote for it, though, and I don't think that makes me bipolar. It's an important thing. I'm not willing to bet 350 on it passing.
You're skeptical that you've got the voters
exactly. Right.
behind.
I think that we have a trust issue right now, and I think all of the examples I gave just kind of lended to that.
Steve hit on it perfectly. For this issue, unfortunately, regardless of how much we need to fix our roads, it's not about the roads, it's about the trust. And there's just been too many things that have come out. There's a lot of work that I know Steve has fought hard on to continue cleaning up the city government. And that has to continue, and that has to happen first before voters will approve giving them more money. This is going to go down big. And
well, I have a great deal of confidence in the new mayor and the new city manager to get to the bottom of these things, and they've done a good job of cleaning out the Department of Transportation. They're doing a good job of cleaning the city up, and it's not over with yet. There's going to be more cleaning to do. But let me tell you, we had a perfect storm of bad things. We had virtually a depression hit us at the very same time that the state took away the HERF funding money, highway user revenue funds, that a share goes to cities and counties. And so, this city council over the last 4 or 5 years has had to make some tough choices. And what they've decided is that public safety is the number one choice for what our job is here. And it's one of the core elements of our charter. And so roads got neglected because of both of those reasons. And they're terrible. They are terrible. I mean, for my 50th birthday, I bought myself a sports car, which I can't even drive in the city. I virtually can't drive it at all because I get beat to death by the streets.
I spent $720 yesterday on my suspension.
I mean, my
so
God, I have
it's
to get
true.
my car aligned
it's a mess.
Once a year. I didn't have to do that until I bought new tires in years past. So we need this, and I'm sorry to say that this will be a test of the trust of the mayor and council, but frankly, I think we've got a pretty solid mayor and council and a new city manager that we can trust, and for that reason, I recommend a yes vote on this. But you're right, it's going to be a tough sell because of problems we've had in the past.
And I agree with Jeff, and I want to align myself with those comments. Dick Miranda, Jonathan Rothschild, they're getting their arms around the issues. It's just, are we willing to risk $350,000 on that trust issue? And that's why I came down saying, let's hit the pause button for a year. We have $20 million in road repair, road reconstruction this fiscal year. Let's try it again maybe in 2013. Let the dust settle. We've got some great projects going in the downtown area right now that are going to generate some tax income, regenerate that trust, and let's maybe revisit this next year. But we'll see in about 30 days whether or not the voters say yes or no.
Let's talk about Proposition 115. It would change judicial selection, give the governor more power over who gets appointed to the bench here in Arizona. Jeff, you're a lawyer. Can you explain how this would change
This
things?
is absolutely one of the worst things on the ballot this year. Arizona has a judicial selection for the 3 largest counties of Pinal, Pima, and Maricopa County that is a model for the entire nation. Republicans, Democrats, Sandra Day O'Connor has said this. We've had this for over 30 years. It's a model. And what happens is you have 10 members of the community. 5 are picked by Board of Supervisors members. 5 are appointed by the governor, and all of them must be approved by the governor. And then there's 5 lawyer members of that 15-member commission, and they are nominated by the bar and then approved by the governor. And they interview all of the candidates, and then they come up with at least 3, and all 3 cannot be a member of the same party, and they send those names to the governor, who gets to pick from that list. Well, what this new one would do would force them to give 8 names. They could all be Republicans or all be Democrats. And frankly, we don't always have 8 candidates who are qualified who actually apply for these. But what their hope is that they can get at least one of their cronies in that top 8 and be more likely than it is now, and that the governor would have the full choice of 8 people that God knows who they would be. And this commission is something that is a wonderful idea, and it basically keeps politics out of the selection of judges. And
so you're a no on that.
I'm an absolute no. And you'll find every Supreme Court Chief Justice and Justice who was formerly on the court is against it. The Bar and the Arizona Bar Association and the Judges Association were frankly cowards. They should have said to the legislature, who threatened them with putting all elected judges on the ballot, they should have just said, yeah, go ahead. We have confidence the voters will reject that. But instead, they fashioned this sort of compromise, which is really no compromise at all. It throws merit selection out the window, and we're working very hard to defeat that.
Steve?
Yeah, and the part of it that Jeff didn't mention is that it also gives the governor the right to name 14 out of the 15 members of that commission. Yeah. So it is fraught with the probability that you're going to get just a rigid ideologue, a list of 8 or 9 candidates who are nothing but cookie-cutter ideologues out of the same bolt of cloth. And the current process right now really depoliticizes the selection of judges, and I just don't think this is a good idea at all.
Sam?
You know, the language in this bill was worked out between the legislature and the State Bar Association, who compromised on the language for it. And a lot of it is, as Jeff said, it's creating public accountability, where these are 3 counties out of the state that don't have elections for judges. And you put a judge in, they're in there for a very long time, potentially. Here, we only have the right to reaffirm them to the court. And so this is designed to create a little accountability where voters have someone they can go to and say, why are you doing this?
It takes the accountability away. It gives me the right to name 14 out of the 15 members on the selection committee. Go pick my hand-picked 8 or 9 candidates, and I'll pick the pick of the litter out of that.
They still have to get through the approval process.
Yeah, but the governor is already stacking the approval process.
Absolutely.
She is replacing every Democrat with an independent. We're down to the point where on the trial court commissions, some of them have 1 Democrat left. When that term is up, the governor will appoint an independent. Under the current law, she can't appoint all Republicans. But what she's doing is she's basically finding Republican-leaning independents and stacking the commission that way. So the system we have now is not perfect by all means at all. I mean, she's really working the system to stack it, but nevertheless, it's a whole lot better than the system that's going to be on the ballot.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there because we are out of time, but there are a whole bunch more propositions on the ballot. We can learn all about those and the candidates on the November ballot by visiting azpm.org. And while you're on our website, we'd love to hear your thoughts on tonight's program, so be sure to leave us a comment. To find out the latest from AZPM, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay tuned next for the News Hour. And then at 8:30, tune into Arizona Week for an in-depth look at a proposition that would give the governor more power over the selection of judges in Arizona, as we were just discussing. Arizona Illustrated will continue to bring you Your Vote 2012 political forums, including a 1-hour showdown between Congressman Ron Barber and his Republican challenger Martha McSally on Tuesday night. I'm Jim Ninsel. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.